Thank you, Ray. Your presentations are always awesome. I really enjoy them. So I have heard recently that the Gadsden flag has been removed off the Navy SEALs uniform. So I don't know if that's true. I just heard news reports that the Navy was thinking about doing that. That some people apparently were offended by it. So, which I mean, which of course they were, right? So,
I haven't heard that, but I wouldn't doubt it at all.
I don't know.
I wouldn't doubt the Navy buckling under too.
Right. I don't know what became it. And depending on where you go online or who you hang around with, otherwise, an appeal to heaven is fairly widely used by active and former military Christians.
Yeah.
As a symbol of their hope toward God and of their service to the nation. Yeah. And as patriots.
Yeah. And I'm one of them.
Yeah. So yeah. I just thought I'd
got one back here.
Mary Jane.
I just.
Man, let me grab you the mic.
Hi everyone, I'm Mary Jane Olasso. It's good to meet you all. I just finished a career in local government, and one of the things that we have struggled with over the last 2 decades is, of course, anybody attacking anything religious on government property, and now they're going after "In God We Trust." And so we are actually having elected officials pay out of their own pocket to hang, lettering or signage, saying "In God We Trust" in board chambers and council chambers and things like that. So just kind of wanted to throw that out there. I don't know, Ray, if you have any updates on any of that.
Well, that's happening all over. It happened in our city government a couple of years ago. Someone did something as simple as over their own desk hanging a Bible verse, and the public went berserk about it. But yeah, that's part of our liberties that we're slowly losing. They're slowly eroding, and that's why we need to keep vigilant and not back down, and not say, oh, well, okay, just like the Navy. Hopefully the Navy be strong and say, forget it, we're using this flag. It's a part of history, and I'm not buckling under, but unfortunately, there's too many people that do buckle under.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Our guest speaker will be Jackie Archer, and I'm going to have Bob introduce her to you. He knows her probably better than any of us. And we're going to put her on the spot. I'm going to ask her to talk a little bit about the heartbeat bill that is going on.
Well, if I said everything I know about Jackie, I'd be talking an hour, and I don't even know much about her. But not long ago, Jackie started an organization called Tennessee Rising, and within that organization is the Tennessee Legislative Report Card, and she'll be talking a little bit about that. And don't let me not say anything about Jay here. He thought he was just going to sit over here and be quiet. Jay's a retired Air Force pilot, and he's also a retired American Airlines pilot. And no, it's not true that Jackie was a stewardess on Jay's airline. So, Jackie, get up and tell us everything you know.
Everything I know. Boy.
You're welcome to use the podium.
Well, what I do know, thank you for, you want me upstairs? Okay. Thank you for inviting me to come Wednesdays, sometimes on Monday evenings and Thursday mornings, if there's something really important going on. I didn't go today because I knew I was coming here and there was a lot of work to do. It's going very fast now. I just can't hardly keep up. And our job, and of course Bobby and Ginny are absolutely awesome, irreplaceable members of our steering committee. There's only 5 of us, and they're 2 of them. So they do a lot of important work from home, watching it. You know, you can watch it all on video on the website, the General Assembly website, which is an awesome website, one of the best. And they keep track of things for us. And they come to visit every now and then, and go up to the Capitol with us and visit the legislators and sit in on the hearings. But it's going so fast now, and I've heard last night we had our Sentinel meeting. They're Heritage Action Sentinels. I don't know if you know who that is.
You do.
Okay, Heritage being Heritage Foundation, and we're the grassroots branch. We had our Heritage Action Sentinel meeting at my home in Murfreesboro. And for the first time, we actually had more people show up than made reservations. So, and we feed them dinner, and it's quite a big deal. Our speaker was Pastor Louis Johnston, and he's got Christian Day on the Hill tomorrow. If anybody wants to take a trip to Nashville and go up to the War Memorial Building, there'll be a big, the governor will be speaking, Mark Green will be speaking, I think Marcia Blackburn will be speaking. Anyway, it's a big day tomorrow. I have not prepared, so if I ramble, I'll try to get back on a theme here. I was talking about the report card. The report card is based on the bills that are presented. We try to choose about 30, maybe, bills to score. The bills that we choose are based on these principles: the fiscal impact, and not on the people that have deep pockets, on you and me. People, middle class and lower class people who have bills to pay and work hard to meet those obligations. So fiscal impact, crony and agenda politics. So we're looking for things, we score good bills and bad bills, and some of them are catering to agendas or crony capitalism and that sort of thing. Property rights, civil rights, and I've added, you'll find those things in your brochure, but I've added transparency, because you need transparency to know if any of these other things are going on. So we look at for all those things, and we pick the bills according to those principles. And right now, we've got like maybe 100 bills that we're trying to narrow down to 30 to actually count the votes and score them. The website is on your brochure, but don't go there now. There's not much there to see, but there will be when we decide on these bills. We'll start counting the votes, but there's another facet to our scorecard. We also give them a leadership grade. The leadership grade is based on what they do besides voting. Do they sponsor good, gutsy bills that are hard to pass? Do they fight for those bills? Do they co-sponsor good bills? Do they make good amendments? Do they fight back when they get a big fiscal note? All those things count. They get merit points for doing good things. They get certain amounts of score for sponsoring a good bill or co-sponsoring, and they get demerits if it's a bad bill. So everything that we score in the positive can also be scored in the negative for things that are not constructive. So that's the report card. And
gambling bill?
The gambling bill,
Yeah.
yeah, gambling bill. I have so many bills running around in my head. And the good bills were, of course, the heartbeat bill, which you want me to talk about, and our civics bill. And I'll talk about that first because it's a short story. The civics bill is one that I have been championing for a long time, and it's never passed. It's never gotten out of the first subcommittee. And this year, it got out of the full education, House Education Committee without a single no vote. Not even from the Democrats. So if it goes through, and we expect it will, because most of the people on the senators on the Senate Education Committee have actually co-sponsored the bill. And Senator Gresham, who's the chair of the Education Committee, is the sponsor. So,
Can you outline that bill?
the bill, yes, very simply. There's actually a law on the book now where they tried to pass this a couple years ago, and it got amended down to, it was the Customs and Immigration Naturalization Test, which has 100 questions. You can go online and take it yourself. It's not that hard. Every kid should be able to pass it, but you can't because they're not taught properly. It was 100 questions. It got amended down to where the LEA or the teacher could use anywhere from 25 to 50 of those questions. And guess what? They didn't have to pass. I don't even know if it was enforced. If they didn't have to pass it, why would the teacher even bother with it? And what kind of a message does that send to our students? That civics is not important enough that you have to pass a test? So this year, we brought it back, and I started out with 100 questions, and I did have to amend it to get a very, very key vote. And that was from the one legislator who had amended it down 2 years ago. So it's 50 questions, but not 25 to 50. It's 50 questions, and they have to pass it, and their transcript has to be noted that they have passed it in order for them to graduate from high school. So
what happens if they don't pass those?
they can take it again. It's just going to be like a driver's test. They can take it until they pass it. And, you know, that's kind of a concession in a way, but the more times you go in there and you take that test, the more you're at least exposed to that information, and you're bound to learn a little bit. Hope that they'll remember it. But that's the civics bill. And I will add this. We reviewed the new civics book that's being considered in your schools right now, in your district schools, for the classrooms for the next 6 years. And it's terrible. It promotes progressivism without any reservations whatsoever. I mean, it amazed me that they could talk about progressivism like it was, you know, the next coming, and not even try to mask it anymore. They think they've arrived, I guess, and the time is now for them to just step out and take control, as you can see if you watch some of our new congresswomen in Washington, D.C. And I hope and pray that I'm right, thinking that they have jumped the gun and they've overstepped their boundaries, and that it's going to backfire on them. And I think there's going to be a revival of patriotism and going back to our principles, our constitutional principles, because they're just out of control. But that's my little report on the.
So has that been approved? Have those books been approved?
Yes. They wouldn't be in your district, so they hadn't been approved, and I was there. I was before the textbook commission. I told them, I put reports in front of each member of that textbook commission of what we found in those books. Doesn't matter. They are like little automatons that rubber stamp everything and do it exactly the way they've always done it. I cannot seem to get their attention. But I have Bill Lee's attention.
Good.
And he's the specialize in technical and career education, right? Vocational education. And I kept in his face about civics and the curriculum. And finally, he started adding that. And in his inaugural speech and in his State of the State speech, he talked about civics, and he's making it a priority. So,
Who controls the commission? Who makes the appointments to the commission, to the textbooks?
Anybody wants you?
Oh, so-
it's a combination of the governor, which, of course, these textbook commissioners were not appointed by this governor, they were appointed by the last governor, and the Speaker of the House and the Speaker of the Senate. Now, we have a little problem with the Speaker of the Senate. I think the Speaker of the House is okay, and our governor's going to be terrific, but I think we have some problems with our Speaker of the Senate, and that's all I'm going to say about that.
So you mentioned that these textbooks have been adopted for 6 years.
Well, they have to be readopted again by your LEA. They don't have to take them.
Well, we know that incentives and money talk on that, so they're going to go along with it. So do you have anything in writing as far as the agenda to put forward with the governor and the rest of those making the appointments to the commission
Okay,
from a lobbying standpoint?
yeah. My colleagues that reviewed the textbooks in Tennessee, we actually were joined by Texans, Floridians, North Carolinians, New Yorker, California, reviewing these textbooks. Now, everybody just reviewed one book. We had like 4 people to a book. Dr. Sandra Alfonsi reviewed some of the books. But 3 of them were veteran reviewers from this state. Hal Rounds from Somerville, Fayette County, is a constitutional lawyer, and he reviewed the 7th grade history books. Claudia Henneberry, a veteran teacher of civics and government from Brentwood, reviewed the government civics book. I reviewed the Tennessee history book. We all collaborated on each other's reviews, and the 3 of us have written our own civics book in compliance with the Tennessee standards. Tennessee standards are fine. There's nothing wrong with the standards. It's the way that the publishers and the globalists above characterize those standards. You give me a subject, that's what standards are, a subject. You can characterize that however you want. You can highlight the worst, you can highlight the best, you can leave out the best, and that's what they do. So for students that read these books, they're going to come away thinking that America is not a good country. And our heroes, especially our Tennessee heroes, Andrew Jackson, Nathan Bedford Forrest, they're vilified in these books. It's really abhorrent, but
So do you have an agenda for lobbying in writing? In other words, can we...
I can
mobilize
send
the
you the
grassroots?
reviews,
Okay.
and I haven't actually sat down and say this is how to lobby. There are things going on in Sullivan County, I understand.
Yes.
Where they're trying to fight this. We've tried to fight it. This would be the 3rd round of 6-year cycles of social studies books that we've tried to fight, and it falls on deaf ears. It's astounding to me that they are willing to sacrifice our children for the globalists, and that's what it is. Those publishing companies that publish these books are global entities. A lot of them are heavily owned by Muslims. A lot of Muslim influence, and that's why the units on Islam are so full of lies. I didn't mean to spend that much time just on civics, but it is an important subject. And you can help out by calling your legislators and asking them to especially support this bill. It's, if you have something to write with, it's Senate Bill 1243. Senate Bill 1243, and Dolores Gresham is the sponsor. And I think it'll pass.
We'll put it in our minutes.
Yeah, thank you. The House bill is 1016 by Terry Lynn Weaver. I want to go on. Education's on my list here, and but you want me to talk about the heartbeat bill, so I'll do that before I move on. The heartbeat bill is a very complicated situation. We had a lot of misunderstandings. David Fowler from Family Action Council of Tennessee is a brilliant lawyer, and he had a new perspective on the heartbeat bill by using personhood. He took language from former, and I'm not an authority on this, I'm just kind of a retelling, and I might make a mistake, so. But retelling what I heard from David, and I was in the room when it was discussed at great length. In past court cases, they've actually referred to the fetus as a person. So he's taking it from the position of personhood. And he had Dr. Brent Bowles, who's a Murfreesboro doctor and a friend of mine, who is also a brilliant pediatrician, has delivered thousands of babies. And he was out on the Hill explaining how they detect viability. And it can be detected almost right away, like a couple of days. It has to do with hormones. And they take a blood sample, and if the hormone level doubles within, I don't know, 48 hours, wasn't it? If it doubles, that hormone level doubles within 48 hours, that's a pregnancy. That's a person. And in just a couple of weeks, you could get a heartbeat. Then, of course, you have the argument that how do they determine death? The heart stops. So how would you determine life? The heart starts. So you have a person with a absolutely unique and separate DNA. So that's how they approached it. Well, I don't know exactly what happened in the House, but they didn't get that message. I was told by somebody who knew that David Fowler did not talk to Micah Van Huss, who was the sponsor of the House bill. Might have been because he had a parent who was in critical condition out of state and had to leave. But so it passed the House in a bad way. I mean, it passed, but it wasn't going to be defensible in court the way it was written.
Because of Amendment 2, the Second Amendment was basically, or the Second Amendment to that bill was basically given up to the courts before.
Well, yes, and they needed David to rewrite it in this with this new perspective of the personhood. And of course, the Senate bill was the same way. So I went to Mark Pody's office, who's the senator who sponsors the bill, and told him that don't put the bill up to be heard until you talk to David. He was out of state, but he came back and they fixed the bill, and it got heard in the Senate in the right way. But it went on for hours, and it got postponed, and I think then it finally was defeated, wasn't it? I wasn't there.
Put it into the summer session.
Summer study, okay.
Summer
Oh, that's right, I was there. I remember now, we talked to another senator, Senator Roberts, afterwards, and his take on it was that the House members were intransigent. They weren't going to change they weren't going to come together on David Fowler's writing of the bill, or amendment for the bill. But that turned out not to be true. But, so it might be resurrected. They're going to try this thing they call, what do they call that? It's Rule 63, where if a majority of the senators, the full Senate, will agree to bring the bill back, they'll bring it back. It doesn't usually work. It didn't work for Andy Holt with a great bill to reform the TSBA. I'm told that it hardly ever works, but there's a chance that it might. But summer study would not be that bad, because it'd give them time to get together and get there. And in the meantime, we've had 2 cases, one in Kentucky and one in New York, was it? Ohio, where they actually used the language and they passed in Sixth Circuit Court. So we also have legislative precedents, judicial precedents that will help us to get this passed and get it to not be knocked down in the courts. Yes.
What was the objection to apparently the majority of Republicans in the committee?
Lack backbone.
Well, Mike Bell's a really good guy. I know that in his heart he wants to see this passed. And I think it goes right back again to your the Speaker of the Senate, our Lieutenant Governor.
What do you mean?
Hmm?
What about him stop the bill?
I don't know what his reasoning is.
I can tell you the reason. I spent much time with him. And his reasoning is he's worried about spending taxpayer money to defend the bill, and he doesn't want to see us wasting money defending a bill he thinks won't pass through the court. That's, in short, what it is all about. Okay? I've talked to him about 3 different times, and that's the answer I got, and also got something in an email.
But most of the legislators had already agreed, and this was even before these 2 positive outcomes of these 2 court cases, even before those things to give you a lot of hope that it would not get knocked down in court. They agreed that it's worth the price. It's worth the price. Spend a couple $1 million.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we have quite a possibility. I heard last night at our Sentinel meeting in Murfreesboro of pro bono attorney. Yeah. We have one. Apparently they withdrew, but there's another one in the wings that may take this and take that argument away. And that's his real argument. Okay. So, any more questions about the heartbeat bill?
I just wondered how many people who have seen the movie Unplanned.
I think a lot of people have.
Yes.
Your friends should see that.
Yes.
In Tennessee, if you would have a car accident kill a baby and a mother, is that what's the definition? Is it killing? Is it 2 homicides? Or is it 1?
Well, if a woman is shot
Okay.
or attacked
However,
and the fetus is destroyed, that is a double, a homicide. A double homicide of the mother.
Okay, so
Yes.
there's a basis.
Right. There's plenty of basis, it's all political theater. But I think we have a really good chance. If it doesn't get recalled this year, I think next year we can count on it, and we'll all get behind our legislators. Our Rutherford County legislators are all yeses, they're all on board supporting it. So it's all up to us to make sure that our people are on the right side, and if they're not, we'll date them in the report card, and you can vote them out of office.
Just a question. Those, if you said you don't think if it doesn't go this year, next year, that means that somebody is against this bill. What is their logic?
Well, you just heard it.
Huh?
The logic was money for I mean, it's been knocked down plenty of times, and there's been a lot of money spent on legal proceedings already on this issue, and they just didn't want to do it here in Tennessee. But that's just one person that I know of. I don't know of anybody else who's really against it.
Two questions.
If I could just take a minute and I'll reiterate what I said a couple months ago when I was talking about this, is our biggest problem is that our Congress and our legislature and our governors acquiesce to the courts. The courts don't have the authority to do what they do, and just like we're talking about rebellion to tyrants, the courts are tyrants. And if a court were to strike this down, I mean, it is so obvious that the baby is a person. And if it's a person, it's got a heartbeat, it's alive, then the baby is protected under the 14th Amendment, due process clauses, on and on and on throughout the Constitution. And if a court strikes it down, our legislature should have enough guts to say, sorry, we're not, that's your opinion, but it's wrong, and we're going to overturn you. And to me, our biggest problem is that acquiesce to the courts. Oh, the court's going to, of course, they're going to find a court, some liberal judge to overturn it. That's what they do. But it's about time we stop acquiescing to the courts and stand up for what's right and true.
Well, that's easy to say, but it's hard to do. Another one of those things.
Yeah, but
our president is replacing those judges just as fast as he can, and it's starting to make a difference. So we'll just hope that's.
Yeah, I'm a little new to Tennessee, so pardon me if this is a little off topic, but I was wondering, what is the existing Tennessee law regarding fourth trimester, i.e. post-birth abortions or post-birth murders?
Well, Tennessee law prohibits abortion. One of the bills before our State House is called a trigger bill. And the bill just states, in my words, that if anything should happen elsewhere outside of Tennessee, whether it's in Washington, D.C. or in some other state, that reverses Roe versus Wade, or somebody should prevail in such a lawsuit, that our law that exists will be triggered back into
Kicks into existence.
pardon?
Kicks into existence.
Right, it'll be reinstated and adhered to, I guess.
But there's nothing separate for post-birth,
It's not an issue here. I mean, it's just not going to happen here. You have the privilege of living in one of the reddest states in this country. People look to us. That's why we can't let the state go down. And like Ray says, we have to fight it. We have to stand up and speak out and quit being politically correct and just not let them bully us. I feel like Tennessee is to the United States as the United States is to the rest of the world. They're looking to us to reinstate our constitutional principles and the liberties that I've enjoyed. I'm really old. My husband and I. The only one here probably older is my husband. And, we enjoyed the post-World War II euphoria. want to see it come back for our grandchildren, so.
Got a
any other
question,
questions
Bob,
on
here.
that?
Back to the Part B bill and the money situation. Tennessee has the money to fight it.
It's absolutely
What
right.
was it, just a year or two ago, we had $2 billion in surplus taxes that they didn't know what to do with. It was over-collected taxes. So they just started spending it.
And that was before we increased our gas tax.
Right.
Yes.
Yes.
So we have the money to fight this.
We do.
As a matter of fact, this year, we're several $1 million ahead of the budget now. I don't know the exact number, but it's almost every year they collect more taxes than they need.
They've already way ahead of the schedule this year, yes.
Can I ask you about one bill?
Yes.
It's been years we've been waiting on the chance to close the primaries. The SEC voted to close the primaries. So I think it was Andy Holt.
Andy Holt.
He wrote a bill.
There were two bills, actually. Tim Rudd had one, too.
That's right. And both of them were good bills, and I watched both of them as they were presenting them, and they did a fantastic job presenting them. But they were just ready to kill them. You could just tell they already had their minds made up before they even presented that bill. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that too many of those legislators, even the new ones who we are putting a lot of faith and hope in, think that they need those independent and democratic votes to win the nomination. Now, it was pointed out eloquently by both the speakers and by Mike Carter.
Yes, I watched
It was
that. He
very
did a
eloquent.
fantastic job of that.
Yes, that it's not a primary election. It is a selection of a candidate to represent a private party. The Democrat Party and the Republican Party are private parties. They're not part of the government. My response was, well, why don't we have caucuses? Because one of the arguments was, well, if it's a private party and you want to restrict it to only your members selecting their nominee, then why are we paying for the election with taxpayer money? And that's a pretty good point, really. But we'd have to change our constitution to have caucuses instead of, I'm told, I'm not sure that's true. I'm really not. I think some counties actually do have caucuses. But that's something we really need to look into, because we have too many people that are running in the Republican Party who are not really as conservative and truly dedicated to the platform of the Republican Party as they need to be. And it was several of those who were so opposed to closing the primaries. So we just keep plugging away, maybe like the civics bill, maybe next year it'll pass. I want to talk about education, because that's my...
Got a question back here.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask a question going back, while you're changing gears? I want to ask a question about the Tennessee report card. And thank you for coming, and thank you for the work that you're doing. My name is Fred. So I want to know where the Tennessee report card organization stands on firearms. I know there's several national and state firearms organizations, and you might not necessarily get involved on that end, but I want to know generally where the organization stands on firearms legislation. Will you report on it? And just so you know who you're talking to, I'm a Second Amendment dead ender. So, okay, thank you.
Well, my car out there in the parking lot has a sticker on it that says, "The Second Amendment is the one that secures the rights of all the other amendments." And we consider the Second Amendment one of those civil rights. That are, so, yeah, we're very strong on the Second Amendment. There were so many Second Amendment and firearm bills, both good and bad, this year that we can't cover that many bills about one issue, so we're going to lump them together, And we have to come up with a very creative way and how to score that many and as kind of a group kind of thing. We haven't figured that out yet.
I don't think the TFA, the Tennessee Firearms Association, would necessarily mind if you just signed up for their emails and sort of just took their work and, because they break out the bills and.
John Harris,
Right, so.
John Harris confided, he sent me his list of bills,
Right,
and
yes.
there are bills too.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah, we work with TFA, we work with AFP, we work with the Beacon Center, we work with Bobby Petray and the Eagle Forum, and David Fowler. We try to work all together, all these conservative groups, so that we're all pulling in the same direction on this cart full of constitutional principles, so. Any more questions?
Is this separate bill, is that House Bill 1243?
No, that's the Senate bill,
Senate bill.
1243. The House bill is 1016, 1016. On education, my thinking is that education is the most important issue. Even though when you get your mail and they ask you to list your important, is it jobs, is it national security, is it the budget, is it health care? They hardly ever even list education. But it's the lack of education, the miseducation that has put us in this place that we're in today where we're fighting to save our constitutional republic. Because our kids are being so miseducated, deliberately. And believe me, the teachers don't even know it. There are very few teachers out there who aren't creatures who have been boiled in that educational pot. Because this has been going on since 1962. More or less. My husband and I were in Japan from 60 to 64. We missed the Cultural Revolution. It was before we had smartphones and, national news and TV and everything. So we were just isolated. And when I came back to America in late 1964, I didn't recognize my country. And I sort of just turned my nose at it and just kind of stayed lost in the 50s. So it wasn't until I read one of these school books in 2012 that I went, oh my God, what has happened? And that was what started all these textbook reviews. And back then, in 2012 and 13, when we were reviewing a whole smorgasbord of social studies books, I could see where it was going. I had no idea it would go this fast. That we would have people like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Omar, whatever her name is, and Talib, out there saying the things and getting by with it. I mean, in my generation, it was unthinkable. So I was gut punched. I was just absolutely gut punched. And if we don't change education, we're going to lose this republic. And we are very close to doing it now. I mean, what did they say? Like, what is the percentage of young people that think that it's over? I think it's 51%. Wasn't it 51%? Think that socialism is better than capitalism. Well, these are polls that they take. I don't know how dependable they are, but the good news is that we have a chance here in Tennessee. Bill Lee is going to be remarkable on education. And I got the best news last night from, our speaker was Pastor Louis Johnston. Does anybody know Pastor Louis Johnston? He's actually heading up this Christian Day in the Hill tomorrow. He's a remarkable fellow, and he's a good friend of Bill Lee's and has been for years. They did mentoring of homeless and prisoners. I think it was Pastor Johnston who wrote the plan for the Men of Valor program, which is the prison reform program, and it's been extremely successful. We went to their prayer breakfast the other day, and there were ex-prisoners, former prisoners, lined from the parking garage all the way across the street, all the way up the stairs and into the auditorium at the Music City Center, reaching out, shaking our hands, and thanking us for being there. They were all ex-prisoners who had been reformed by this program, the Men of Valor. And it was Louis Johnston and Bill Lee were among the founders of this program. Well, Louis told us last night that Bill Lee is cutting our budget. It's going to take a while, and he has to learn more. He has more work to do, learning where he can cut, what programs can be cut, where there's graft and waste. And as soon as he can, he's going to tell the feds to keep their education money.
Amen.
So that just lifted me right out of my seat. I was so happy to hear that. I don't know if I can top that. They may be the...
Yeah, you can. Well, I wanted to, one thing I forgot to do is pass the basket. Remember, your donations will help us keep this organization going, keep things up and running for the website. And so if you'll help us out, we'll really appreciate it. But that was one of my major things, is getting the feds out of our education system. I've written to the governor and everybody else about that. So thank you. That is the best news I've heard in a long time. Okay. The things that are happening right now with the Mueller report coming out on Thursday, that ought to be something that we ought to think about. It is going to be something that's very, very interesting. I know the Republicans are going to say it exonerates the president, especially with what our Attorney General Barr has said. But I know that the Democrats are going to root through that with a fine-tooth comb and look for one sentence or one paragraph and hang their hat on and go after the president with whatever they can do.
Well, Barr's handpicked by the president. You can't trust him.
Why not? Does anybody have any comments about what's going on with our government right now?
It sucks. Did anybody see Bernie Sanders on Fox last night?
He said, did anybody see Bernie Sanders on Fox last night?
Yeah.
He's still a commie.
Well, if those that didn't see him, what he basically said that he liked socialism, he was going to want health care for all, basically like Medicare, and every time they tried to ask, how is he going to do this, he tried to bring in President Trump and what President Trump was doing, and he never would answer the question. So none of the real important questions got answered. So
What question got answered? Everyone that I heard ask, he took a sentence and then went off in some tangent in some other way.
right, he never
And if we're talking about it snowing, he just delayed everything and over and talked about how much it was raining.
He's a politician.
This man definitely wants to be president because he hates Trump. But I have the slightest idea why he wants to be president. But he'll say or do anything to please whoever is listening.
Okay, you got a question? Right here.
Okay, now that we skewered Bernie, I want to give you some background on spot at some point, you need some talking points for conservatives. She was the Attorney General in California. As Attorney General, are you familiar with Prop 8 in California, the definition of marriage bill? We fought for that. It was the law of the land. I won, I think, 70%.
They passed it 3 times, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So we personally were out spending our money, walking, our neighborhoods. And she chose not to defend the law in the California State Supreme Court because she doesn't agree with it. So it's very important that you know what her background is and the fact that she will not support conservative values. So if somebody is starting to be swayed by her, don't let it.
No.
Okay. We're just about to close. I want to remind you that Act for America will be April the 25th, Rosarita's Cantina. Ed Hester, one of the founders of Act for America for our local chapter, he's going to be sharing the insight on Chapter 5 of Bridget Gabriel's new book, Rise. So that will be. The next meeting will be the 21st of May. So put that on your calendar. We'll have a speaker for that one and get that out. So is there any questions before we close the meeting? Yes?
I forgot to tell one thing that was important.
Okay, go for it.
Our administrator for textbookadvocates.com is the website, the original website from 7 years ago for the reviews. And she moved away several years ago, but she's still administering our website. And she just put all of the 2019 books, reviews on that website.
What was that again?
Textbookadvocates.com. So if you want to see any of the reviews of any of those history books, sociology books, economics books, government, civics books, they'll be on that website. The 2014-15 books will be there from time before, but she just put on the new ones that are being considered by your school boards right now.
Okay, Bob,
We have our legislators that come in and give us updates once a year, They're coming in June, right?
they'll be coming in May.
Next month.
Randy McNally.
Yeah, May will be Randy McNally, so you can have Randy at that time.
And we've invited several.
Yeah, we have Randy McNally going to be coming,
Lowell Russell.
Lowell Russell,
John Reagan.
and
Maybe
one other.
Jason Zachary.
And Jason Zachary. So we're going to have a smattering of the legislators here.
Is Glenn Jacobs still coming sometime, or is he
Yes, I'm trying to get him.
trying to get his?
For June.
June, maybe?
Yeah.
He's scheduled for June,
Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
He keeps having meetings come up that he really can't make it here, so
Okay.
Yeah,
he wants to come.
yeah. And then we're trying to get our Senator Marsha Blackburn here. We've been trying to get her, getting on his calendar, or her calendar. So we do have a good group, and this next meeting ought to be pretty good.
We can get Tim back too later on when they finish up there in DC.
Say again?
We can get Tim Burgess back once they finish.
Yeah, Tim Burgess has already told us, and he's scheduled with us in,
Oh, we're working with his staff
yeah,
right now.
Tim Burgess definitely wants to come back.
Yeah.
He'll be here. So we're working on some good speakers for our next meetings. Yes, ma'am.
Just real quick, since you mentioned Tim Burchett, I periodically hear part of Halloran on my way home from work, and I don't know if any of you caught him fairly recently with Tim Burchett on with him, and the two of them were talking about running into who they hoped would be the next new senator, and they were talking about Belgism.
Hooray.
I hope not.
Angela was with
And
us.
have one more comment.
Hey, here's my son.
Oh, we'll have to talk to her about that.
Just, the young lady that was talking about the textbook committees and stuff, just, Bobby and I also go to all the school board workshops and school board meetings here in Loudoun County. I just want to reassure you, they're not changing anything. They're going right along with everything they always have had. And when you ask who's on the textbook committee, the superintendent has picked all his favorites, and you know what I mean by favorites, to be on our county textbook committee. And they just approved, again, all the textbooks. They never show them to anybody. They never offer it to the parents to come and look at them or anything else. So I'm sure this My World geography book that's out this year and has been approved is full of the same Islam garbage that we've been dealing with for 6 years. So just to let you know, that's the way it goes. Like she said, it's like you're beating your head against a brick wall. It's just amazing.
Common Core.
Oh, yeah, we're still up to here in Common Core.
You want to make one more comment?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. No problem.
Just so you know, that I have a personal interest in this because of the terror attack on San Bernardino County employees. I was acting CEO that day. So I have a very personal problem with anything to do with falsehoods. We support our Muslim friends who are good and kind and caring people. Our son stood over them as they were praying at the community college to protect them, to allow them the right to pray. On the other hand, the extremists have no place here. And I will tell you that from the bottom of my heart for the 13 people who died that day.
Okay, well, I want to thank you for coming to the meeting and hope to see you here for the next meeting.
Act for America.
I did talk about Act for America already. Yeah, the 25th of this month, next Thursday, not this coming Thursday, but the following Thursday is when it is. Rosarita's Cantina. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne.
What does Bill Lee think about, he's for vouchers for awards. I think the only way we're going to say our system is out. Good to see you again. Other than taking your kids out of public school and paying for a private school or homeschooling, that's my point. Is why not have a universal so everybody can do it on their own? So, if they close the primaries, we don't have to say that these are why do you have to sacrifice? That's my point. We can just not areas that are mistake.
But that's why we're not supporting it, really. I think the arguments on both sides, and there's low for
I don't know how well you know Bill Lane. You have contact. Tennessee Star website. Last 2 or 3 articles, they know. No. Democrats, no. Tennessee Star, pretty straightforward as far as it's concerned.
Well, Tennessee Star, Brian here was on the next one, it's more like, we call it
Okay, well, my point was, he's got,
there's another one that's there.
well, he's got Democrats and Republicans from what the article. Okay, I'm not, you
No,
know.
I was going to go as well. I've been told by
He was donating to Iran. So I'm not really like I said, you know. Well, it doesn't matter. I have no contact with
Even I'm at work on that.
I supported it.
And I said, yes, and you were the first people we met. And I haven't turned one of my outfits.
I hope it's not too late for them. I made a big wake up call. I think we're pretty evenly split.
Very conservative, very religious.
We have